In the grim darkness of the far future, there exists a world so hostile that even the hardened warriors of the Adeptus Astartes give it a wide berth. This is Catachan, a death world located in the Ultima Segmentum, where every breath could be your last, and every shadow might conceal something with 1,000 ways to kill you. But among all the horrors that infest this nightmare jungle, one creature stands above the rest as the apex predator, the ultimate expression of evolution's cruelty. This is the Catachan Devil, a living nightmare that has given its name to both the deadliest knife in the Imperium and the most elite soldiers humanity has ever produced. Imagine, if you will, a creature that combines the worst aspects of a scorpion and a centipede, magnified to proportions that dwarf Imperial battle tanks. Picture something that can reach 30 meters in length, equipped with up to 30 pairs of chitinous legs, each one capable of carrying its massive bulk across any terrain with horrifying speed. Envision a tail armed with a poisonous barb that curves forward over its segmented body, ready to deliver venom that can drop a space marine in his tracks. Add to this nightmare claws, powerful enough to tear through ceramite armor, a mouth filled with bony hooks instead of teeth, and an array of stinging tentacles that can paralyze prey before consumption. This is the Catachan Devil, and understanding its grim existence requires us to descend into one of the most inhospitable environments ever catalogued by the Imperium of man. The planet Catachan itself seems almost consciously designed to kill anything that didn't evolve there. Its jungles are so dense that daylight barely penetrates to the forest floor. The air is thick with toxic spores that can induce fatal respiratory failure in unprotected humans. The water teems with diseases and parasites that make drinking it a death sentence. Even the slightest scratch from a branch can introduce necrotic bacteria that will rot flesh from bone within hours. This is a world where 50% of the human population doesn't survive infancy, and of those who do, only half make it past age 10. Those who reach adulthood are forged into some of the toughest, most dangerous humans in the entire galaxy. But the humans of Catachan are merely visitors to this hell. The true natives, the flora and fauna that evolved in this pressure cooker of lethality, are something else entirely. The Catachan Devil represents the absolute pinnacle of this evolutionary arms race, a creature so perfectly adapted to killing that Imperial xenobiologists have struggled to find any weakness in its design. It is territorial, yet social, capable of complex pack tactics, yet individually lethal enough to slaughter entire squads of Imperial guardsmen. It is stealthy, despite its size, able to blend into the jungle foliage with an effectiveness that seems impossible for something the size of a land train. And perhaps, most terrifying of all, there are theories that suggest it might not even be native to Catachan at all, but rather something far more sinister. The life of a Catachan Devil is one of constant violence, territorial defense, and insatiable hunger. Born into nesting groups that function as extended family units, young devils called devil spawn learn to kill before they can properly hunt. They grow continuously throughout their lives, adding more body segments and legs with each molting cycle, becoming progressively more dangerous as they age. The oldest males, called fiddlers by the local human population, develop grotesquely enlarged front claws that can punch through bunker walls and crush bones with casual ease. These alpha predators have survived decades or even centuries in one of the galaxy's most hostile environments, and they bear the scars to prove it. To truly understand what it means to be a Catachan Devil, we must explore every aspect of their existence from birth to death, examining how they hunt, how they kill, how they reproduce, and how they've shaped the culture of the humans who share their world. We must look at the failed Imperial attempts to weaponize these creatures, the disasters that resulted, and the legends that have grown around them. We must consider the possibility that they might be something other than what they appear, ancient tyrannid organisms cut off from the hive mind and forced to survive on their own for millennia. And we must understand why the Catachan people, rather than fearing these monsters, have instead adopted their name as a badge of honor, naming their finest warriors and deadliest weapons after the very creatures that have claimed so many of their kin. The anatomy of nightmare. Physical description of the Catachan devil. The Catachan devil, scientifically designated Catachanus scorpionis maximus, by imperial xenobiologists who studied it from what they hoped was a safe distance, is a creature that defies easy classification within the standard imperial taxonomic system. It shares characteristics with both arachnids and myriapods, yet possesses features that suggest either an incredibly complex evolutionary history or, more disturbingly, deliberate biological engineering by an intelligence far beyond human understanding. At its most basic level, the devil's body plan consists of a series of segmented sections, each bearing a pair of powerful legs. Unlike Terran centipedes or millipedes, these segments aren't uniform. They vary in size and thickness along the length of the creature, with the central sections being the largest and most heavily armored. The devil's exoskeleton is composed of a chitinous material that has proven remarkably resistant to standard imperial weaponry. Las rifle fire, the backbone of Imperial Guard firepower, simply sparks off this natural armor, the shots dispersing harmlessly across the hardened plates. Even armor-piercing rounds often fail to penetrate except at specific weak points, between the segments, places known to experienced Catachan hunters, but fatal for outsiders to search for at close range. The head of a Catachan devil is proportionally small compared to its massive body, pointed and streamlined for pushing through dense jungle undergrowth. Set into this angular skull are eyes that glow with an eerie green luminescence, visible even in the perpetual twilight of Catachan's jungle floor. These aren't simple compound eyes like those of Terran insects, but rather something more sophisticated, capable of detecting not just visible light, but also heat signatures and perhaps even other energy spectrums. The eyes provide the devil with exceptional vision in the low-light conditions of its native habitat, allowing it to hunt effectively at any time of day or night. But the most terrifying aspect of the devil's head is its mouth. Unlike most predators, which have jaws lined with teeth, the Catachan devil possesses lateral mandibles lined with bony hooks. These hooks curve backward, making escape impossible once a victim is caught. The mouth itself is extendable, capable of opening to dimensions that seem impossible given the size of the head, allowing the creature to engulf prey much larger than one would expect. Surrounding this nightmare maw is an array of short tentacles, each equipped with specialized stinging cells similar to those found in certain Terran jellyfish, but far more potent. These tentacles can deliver paralyzing toxins that render prey helpless within seconds, unable to struggle as the devil begins its feeding process. As a Catachan devil grows, it doesn't simply increase in size proportionally. Instead, it adds entirely new body segments, each complete with its own pair of legs. A juvenile devil spawn might have only 6 or 8 segments, making it roughly the size of a large dog, though no less deadly for its relative small size. A mature adult, however, can possess up to 30 segments, reaching lengths of 30 meters and masses comparable to Imperial main battle tanks. The largest specimens ever recorded, ancient fiddlers that have survived for decades in the jungle, have been estimated at even greater sizes, though exact measurements are difficult to obtain for obvious reasons. These titanic creatures are mercifully rare, as most devils fall to competitors, disease, injury, or human hunters long before reaching such proportions. The legs themselves are marvels of biomechanical engineering. Each terminates in multiple claws that can grip virtually any surface, allowing devils to traverse terrain that would stop most other creatures. They can climb trees despite their massive bulk, scale sheer cliff faces, swim through swamps and rivers, and even move across the unstable surface of Catachan's infamous singing bogs without sinking. The legs attach to the body segments through complex musculature that provides both strength and flexibility. Tech priests who have dissected dead specimens report that the leg muscles contain a unique protein structure that stores and releases energy with remarkable efficiency, explaining how such large creatures can move with such shocking speed. But the most distinctive feature of the Catachan devil is its tail. This long, segmented appendage curves forward over the creature's back in the classic scorpion posture, terminating in a bulbous stinger armed with a wickedly sharp barb. The venom sac within this stinger contains a cocktail of toxins that Imperial medici have struggled to fully analyze. What is known is that a single sting can kill an unarmored human in minutes, inducing cardiac arrest, respiratory failure, and catastrophic nervous system shutdown. Even space marines in full-power armor are at risk, as the barb is powerful enough to pierce ceramite at close range, and the venom potent enough to challenge even a space marine's enhanced physiology. As male devils age, a dramatic physical transformation occurs. The frontmost pair of legs begins to enlarge, the claws growing and thickening until they resemble the massive pincers of Terran crustacea. These modified limbs, which give rise to the local nickname fiddler, due to their resemblance to the asymmetrical claws of fiddler crabs, are the devil's most powerful weapons. A fiddler's claw can generate crushing forces measured in tons per square centimeter, sufficient to crumple plasteel, shatter rockcrete, and reduce human bodies to pulp with a single squeeze. These claws make fiddlers significantly more dangerous than their smaller kin, transforming them from merely lethal predators into something approaching mobile siege engines. The coloration of Catachan devils varies depending on age, diet, and the specific region of Catachan they inhabit. Most display mottled patterns of dark greens, browns, and blacks that provide excellent camouflage in the jungle environment. Some specimens from the volcanic regions show reddish or orange tints, while those from the swampy lowlands tend toward muddy greys and yellows. This natural camouflage is enhanced by the devil's behavior. When hunting or resting, they will often allow local vegetation to grow over their carapace, effectively covering themselves in living camouflage that makes them nearly impossible to spot until it's too late. Experienced Catachan hunters tell stories of walking within meters of a resting devil without realizing it, only noticing the creature when it moved or when the distinctive green glow of its eyes suddenly appeared in what they had taken for a patch of jungle floor. The internal anatomy of the Catachan devil is perhaps even more fascinating than its external features, though few xenobiologists have had the opportunity or courage to study it in detail. What autopsies have been performed reveal a creature of remarkable efficiency. The digestive system is straightforward, but devastatingly effective, capable of breaking down virtually any organic matter. The respiratory system operates through a series of spiracles along the body segments, allowing the devil to extract oxygen from Catachan's toxic atmosphere without suffering the ill effects that plague human lungs. The circulatory system employs a greenish hemolymph that serves not only to transport nutrients and oxygen, but also appears to contain natural anticoagulants and potent immune factors that make devils remarkably resistant to the diseases and parasites that infest Catachan. Most interesting to Imperial xenobiologists is the devil's nervous system. While it lacks a centralized brain in the human sense, it possesses a distributed neural network that runs the length of its body, with major ganglia in each segment. This decentralized nervous system means that a devil can continue to function even after suffering what would be catastrophic damage to most creatures. Severing a devil's head doesn't immediately kill it. The body segments can continue moving, attacking, and even hunting for hours afterward. This has led to more than one gruesome incident where hunters thought they had killed a devil, only to have its corpse suddenly surge back to life and slaughter them. The reproductive organs of Catachan devils remain largely mysterious, as no human has successfully observed their mating behavior and survived to document it. What is known suggests that devils are either ovoviviparous or lay eggs in heavily defended nests, producing clutches of young that are immediately capable of independent movement and predation. The high number of juveniles found in each nesting group suggests that mortality is high even for creatures born into an apex predator species, with siblings likely competing for food and territory from the moment of birth. The arsenal of evolution, weapons, and hunting adaptations. The Catachan devil is not merely large and armored. It is a sophisticated killing machine equipped with an array of weapons that would make even the most advanced Imperial war engine envious. Every aspect of its anatomy serves the dual purpose of acquiring food and defending territory, refined over countless generations into something approaching perfection within its ecological niche. The primary weapons of a Catachan devil are its claws. Each of the creature's many legs terminates in multiple curved talons that serve various functions depending on their position on the body. The forward claws, particularly in older males, are built for grasping and crushing. These can close around prey with bone-breaking force, piercing through flesh and armor alike. The sharpness of these claws is remarkable, maintained through constant use and abrasion against the rough terrain of Catachan. They can pierce through Imperial flak armor as easily as a hot knife through butter, and even carapace armor offers only marginal protection against a determined devil. The middle claws are adapted more for locomotion and climbing, though they remain deadly weapons in their own right. These claws can grip surfaces with a force that creates actual indentations in stone, allowing the devil to anchor itself while delivering attacks with its other limbs. This multi-limbed attack capability makes devils nearly impossible to defend against in close combat, as they can strike from multiple angles simultaneously while maintaining their balance and mobility. Human defenders have described the experience of fighting a devil at close range as like facing a whirlwind of bladed limbs, with no safe angle of approach and no moment free from the threat of another slashing attack. The rear claws are optimized for propulsion, driving the devil forward with shocking speed despite its massive bulk. These claws can dig into soft ground or grip hard surfaces with equal effectiveness, giving devils their characteristic ability to move across any terrain type without slowing. The biomechanics of this locomotion are still not fully understood by Imperial tech priests, but observers note that devils can transition from a slow, stalking gait to a full charge in less than a second, going from 0 to speeds approaching that of an Imperial light vehicle almost instantaneously. This burst speed makes escape from a hunting devil nearly impossible, as even trained Catachan jungle fighters, some of the fastest and most agile humans in the Imperium, rarely outrun a devil that is committed to pursuit. The tail of a Catachan devil serves as both a weapon and a sensory organ. The poisonous barb at its tip can strike with the speed and precision of a piston, punching through armor and delivering venom in the same motion. The tail's length and flexibility allow the devil to strike at targets behind it or above it without needing to turn its body, giving it near-complete spherical offensive capability. More impressively, the tail appears to possess its own degree of autonomous function, capable of targeting and striking at threats, even when the devil's attention is focused elsewhere. This has led to numerous casualties among hunting parties that thought they had positioned themselves in the devil's blind spot, only to find themselves impaled by a tail strike they never saw coming. The venom itself is a masterpiece of biochemical warfare. Analysis by Imperial Medici shows it contains multiple active components that work synergistically to overwhelm the victim's systems. There are neurotoxins that shut down nervous system function, causing paralysis and respiratory failure. There are hemotoxins that destroy blood cells and cause catastrophic internal bleeding. There are myotoxins that break down muscle tissue, including heart muscle. And there are novel compounds that appear designed specifically to overwhelm the enhanced resistance of space marine physiology, suggesting either remarkable evolutionary coincidence or something more disturbing about the devil's origins. Perhaps most terrifying are the stinging tentacles that surround the devil's mouth. These short appendages, barely visible until the creature is feeding, are covered in specialized cells called nematocysts, similar to those found in Terran jellyfish, but far more sophisticated. When these tentacles contact prey, The nematocysts fire microscopic barbed harpoons that inject paralyzing toxins directly into the victim's nervous system. The effect is almost instantaneous. Victims report feeling a sharp burning sensation, followed by complete loss of motor control. They remain conscious and can feel everything that happens next, but are completely unable to move or resist as the devil begins to feed. The feeding process itself demonstrates the devil's sophisticated predatory adaptations. The extendable mouth can open to dimensions that seem to violate the laws of physics, the mandibles spreading wide while the bony hooks rotate outward to maximize the opening. The devil then engulfs its prey whole if the victim is small enough, or tears off large chunks if dealing with something too big to swallow. The backward curving hooks make this process irreversible. Any attempt by the prey to pull away simply drives the hooks deeper into their flesh. The devil's digestive enzymes are immediately secreted into the victim, beginning the breakdown process even before swallowing is complete. These enzymes are extraordinarily powerful, capable of liquefying bone and breaking down even toxins and poisons that the prey might have used for their own defense. One of the most dangerous aspects of the devil's hunting capability is its stealth. Despite masses that can reach several tons, devils move through Catachan's jungles with almost supernatural silence. The pads on their feet are covered in microscopic filaments that dampen sound, making their footfalls nearly inaudible, even on dry leaves or brittle undergrowth. Their segmented bodies can compress and extend, allowing them to squeeze through gaps that seem impossibly small for creatures of their size. And their natural camouflage, combined with behavioral adaptations like remaining motionless for hours at a time, makes them effectively invisible when they choose not to be seen. This stealth is enhanced by the devil's apparent understanding of how to use the environment to its advantage. They position themselves in shadows and among similarly colored vegetation. They bury themselves partially in mud or loose soil, leaving only their eyes and stinger exposed. They climb into the lower canopy and hang motionless, waiting for prey to pass beneath. Catachan hunters report that devils seem to learn the patterns of human patrols and hunting parties, positioning their ambushes along commonly used paths and near water sources where thirsty humans are forced to venture. The sensory capabilities of Catachan devils are another crucial part of their hunting arsenal. Their glowing eyes can detect heat signatures, allowing them to spot warm-blooded prey even in complete darkness or through light vegetation. They possess chemosensory organs along their bodies that can taste the air, detecting the chemical signatures of potential prey from hundreds of meters away. They can feel vibrations through their many legs, sensing the approach of prey through the ground itself. And there is evidence suggesting they might possess even more exotic senses, possibly including the ability to detect electrical fields or even psychic emanations, though this remains unconfirmed. All of these weapons and adaptations combine to create a predator of almost unparalleled efficiency. A hunting devil is death incarnate, a mobile arsenal of biological weapons that has been refined by millions of years of evolution into something approaching perfection. And what makes them even more dangerous is that they can coordinate these capabilities with other devils in their nesting group, combining individual lethality with pack tactics to bring down prey far larger and more dangerous than any single devil could handle alone. Birth of a killer, life cycle and social structure. The life cycle of a Catachan devil begins in violence and continues in constant struggle for survival, much like everything else on their nightmarish homeworld. Understanding how these creatures develop from vulnerable hatchlings into apex predators requires us to examine their complex social structures and the brutal education they receive from the moment they emerge into Catachan's hostile environment. The youngest devils, called devil spawn by the human population, are smaller versions of their parents, typically measuring between 1 and 3 meters in length when newly hatched or born. The exact reproductive method of Catachan devils remains somewhat mysterious, as direct observation of their breeding behavior is nearly impossible and usually fatal for the observer. The prevailing theory among imperial xenobiologists is that devils are ovoviviparous, meaning females carry eggs internally until they hatch, then give live birth to fully formed young. This would explain why no devil eggs have ever been found despite intensive searching, and why devil spawn appear to enter the world already capable of coordinated movement and basic predation. A typical clutch consists of anywhere from a dozen to 50 devil spawn, born to one or more females within the nesting group. The mortality rate among these juveniles is staggering, even by Catachan standards. Within the first week, more than half of the clutch will be dead, killed by older siblings, consumed by the adults as a source of protein, or falling victim to one of Catachan's countless other dangers. This brutal culling serves an important evolutionary function, ensuring that only the fastest, most aggressive, and most adaptable young survive to maturity. Those devil spawn that do survive this initial period emerge as incredibly capable predators despite their small size. Devil spawn possess all the same weapons as adults, just in miniature form. They have venomous stingers, though their venom is less potent than that of adults. They have sharp claws and the characteristic bony hooks in their mouths. And they have one advantage adults lack: the ability to burrow. Young devils can tunnel through Catachan soil with remarkable speed, using their claws and flexible bodies to create elaborate underground networks beneath the nesting territory. These tunnels serve multiple purposes, providing escape routes from larger predators, creating ambush positions for hunting, and offering some protection from Catachan's savage weather. This burrowing ability makes devil spawn particularly dangerous to unwary humans. A Catachan patrol might be marching through what seems like safe terrain, only to have the ground suddenly erupt beneath their feet as a swarm of devil spawn burst from hidden tunnels. These juvenile devils hunt in coordinated packs, overwhelming their prey through sheer numbers and ferocity. While a single devil spawn might not be able to kill an armored Imperial guardsman, a dozen of them attacking simultaneously certainly can, dragging their victim into the tunnels to be consumed or delivering enough venomous stings to incapacitate even the hardiest warrior. As devil spawn grow, they undergo a series of molting cycles, each time shedding their old exoskeleton and emerging larger and with additional body segments. This growth is not continuous, but rather occurs in dramatic spurts associated with each molt. During the molting process, the devil is extremely vulnerable, its new exoskeleton soft and unarmored for several hours. This is when older siblings, or even parents, are most likely to cannibalize the molting individual, turning what should be a milestone of development into a life or death struggle. Devils that successfully complete a molt will often immediately burrow underground or hide in dense vegetation until their new armor has hardened, understanding instinctively that they are prey during this period. The transition from devil spawn to adult devil is gradual rather than sudden, marked by increasing size and the loss of the ability to burrow effectively as the creature becomes too large for its tunnels. By the time a devil reaches 4 or 5 meters in length, it must abandon the underground realm and commit itself fully to surface hunting. This transition period is another high mortality phase, as the young devil is too large to use juvenile tactics, but not yet large enough or experienced enough to compete effectively with established adults. Many devils of this intermediate size leave their birth nesting group at this point, either voluntarily or driven out by dominant adults, seeking to establish territories of their own or join other nesting groups as subordinate members. The social structure within an established devil nesting group is complex and somewhat fluid. Unlike the rigid hierarchies seen in some predator species, devil societies appear to operate on a combination of age-based respect, proven hunting ability, and simple physical dominance. The largest fiddlers, those ancient males with grotesquely enlarged claws, occupy the top positions in this hierarchy. They have priority access to the best hunting spots, the most favorable basking sites, and presumably breeding opportunities with the females. However, these dominant males are not unchallenged despots. They must constantly prove their worth through successful hunts and defensive actions, and a fiddler that shows signs of age or weakness will quickly find itself challenged by younger, more vigorous males. Females appear to form the stable core of nesting groups, often remaining in the same territory for their entire lives. Males are more mobile, moving between groups and competing for breeding access. This pattern suggests that devil territories are matrilineal, passed down from mothers to daughters, with males being more expendable from the group's perspective. Young females will remain with their birth group, gradually increasing in size and social status until they themselves are ready to reproduce. Young males, conversely, must either fight their way up the hierarchy within their birth group or leave to seek opportunities elsewhere. The nesting groups themselves typically consist of between 3 and 8 adult devils, plus anywhere from a few dozen to over 100 devil spawn and intermediate-sized juveniles. These groups defend territories that can span several square kilometers of jungle, marked by scent trails, deliberately destroyed vegetation, and piles of bones from past kills. Other devils that enter these territories without permission are met with immediate and overwhelming violence from the entire nesting group. These territorial conflicts are among the few times when multiple adult devils can be observed hunting cooperatively, and they invariably result in the death or severe injury of the intruder. But this territorial aggression has limits. Devil nesting groups will cooperate when faced with external threats large enough to endanger the entire nest. Catachan hunting parties composed of experienced jungle fighters report observing devils calling to each other across their territory when danger approaches, using a series of clicking sounds produced by scraping their leg joints together. Within minutes of this alarm being raised, devils from across the territory will converge on the threat, presenting a unified front regardless of individual disputes or hierarchical tensions. Imperial Guard tank companies that have inadvertently entered devil territory have found themselves under coordinated attack from dozens of devils simultaneously, with the creatures working together to isolate individual vehicles and tear them apart. The reproductive cycle of Catachan devils appears to be tied to Catachan's seasonal variations, though the planet's unstable orbit and volcanic activity make these seasons irregular and unpredictable. Xenobiologists speculate that breeding occurs during Catachan's cooler periods, when prey is more abundant and the metabolic demands of pregnancy are easier to meet. Gestation likely lasts several months, during which time pregnant females become even more aggressive and territorial than usual. The actual birth process has never been directly observed by humans and survived, but the presence of large numbers of devil spawn appearing simultaneously in established territories suggests that multiple females within a nesting group may synchronize their breeding cycles. As devil spawn mature into juveniles and juveniles into adults, they develop not just physically, but also in terms of hunting sophistication. Young devil spawn rely primarily on ambush tactics and overwhelming numbers. Juveniles begin to display more complex behaviors, including the use of terrain to their advantage and basic stalking techniques. Full adults demonstrate remarkable hunting intelligence, learning the patterns and behaviors of their prey, remembering successful hunting spots, and even appearing to pass this knowledge on to younger members of the nesting group. The oldest fiddlers, veterans of decades of hunting in one of the galaxy's most dangerous environments, display what can only be described as cunning, planning and executing hunts with a level of sophistication that rivals that of intelligent species. This accumulation of experience over a lifetime makes older devils exponentially more dangerous than younger ones. A juvenile devil, while still deadly, is somewhat predictable in its tactics. An ancient fiddler, however, has survived countless encounters with prey, predators, and humans, learning from each experience. These creatures have seen entire generations of Catachan jungle fighters come and go. They've adapted to human weapons and tactics. They've learned to recognize the specific types of humans that pose the greatest threat, and to prioritize these targets. In a very real sense, the oldest devils are not, just killing machines, but killing machines with decades of combat experience and a comprehensive understanding of their enemies' capabilities. The hunt, predatory behavior, and feeding. To witness a Catachan devil hunt is to see evolution's cruelty made manifest, a perfect demonstration of how millions of years of development can refine killing into an art form. The hunting behaviors of these creatures vary considerably based on age, size, and whether they're hunting alone or as part of a nesting group, but all share a common thread of ruthless efficiency. Younger devil spawn employ the most straightforward tactics, relying on speed, numbers, and the element of surprise. Their preferred method is the underground ambush. A pack of devil spawn will position themselves beneath commonly used game trails or near water sources, waiting in their tunnels with infinite patience. They can detect surface vibrations through their bodies, feeling the approach of prey through the soil itself. When a suitable target passes overhead, they explode from the ground in a coordinated eruption, surrounding the prey in seconds. The victim finds itself in the midst of a writhing mass of claws, stingers, and snapping mandibles, often dead before they fully comprehend what's happening. These juvenile hunts are chaotic affairs, lacking the refined technique of adult devils, but making up for it in sheer ferocity. The devil spawn will immediately begin to feed on living prey, not waiting for the victim to die before tearing off chunks of flesh. This feeding frenzy serves multiple purposes beyond simple nutrition. It establishes dominance hierarchies within the juvenile pack, with more aggressive individuals securing better feeding positions. It provides crucial practice in combat and prey handling, and it ensures that the prey dies quickly from trauma and blood loss, even if the initial attack didn't deliver immediately fatal injuries. As devils mature, their hunting tactics become more sophisticated. Intermediate-sized juveniles begin to develop stalking behaviors, approaching prey slowly and carefully rather than relying purely on ambush. These devils will follow potential targets for hours or even days, learning their patterns and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. They demonstrate remarkable patience for creatures of their age, willing to pass up marginal hunting opportunities in favor of waiting for a moment when success is virtually guaranteed. This conservative hunting strategy makes sense given the energy costs of their growing bodies. A failed hunt represents not just lost opportunity, but potentially fatal energy expenditure for a devil that's still developing. Adult devils display the full range of predatory behaviors, selecting their tactics based on the specific prey and circumstances. When hunting the various herbivores that inhabit Catachan's jungles, devils often employ a sit-and-wait strategy. They position themselves along established game trails, their bodies perfectly camouflaged among the vegetation, and simply wait for prey to come to them. This can require remaining motionless for days at a time, but devils appear to enter a state of metabolic reduction during these waiting periods, lowering their energy consumption to sustainable levels, while remaining alert enough to react instantly when prey appears. The actual attack, when it comes, is explosive and decisive. A devil can go from complete immobility to full charge in a fraction of a second, crossing 20 meters before its prey can even register the movement. The first strike is typically designed to cripple rather than kill, with the devil using its front claws to lame the prey or its tail to deliver a paralyzing sting. Once the prey is immobilized, the devil takes its time with the kill, apparently savoring the process. It will use its stinging tentacles to further paralyze the victim, then begin feeding while the prey is still alive and conscious. The sons screams of a devil's victim can carry for kilometers through Catachan's jungle, serving as a warning to other creatures of what awaits those who let down their guard. When hunting more dangerous prey, particularly humans or other intelligent species, devils demonstrate a level of tactical awareness that borders on disturbing. They study their targets carefully, learning to identify the most dangerous individuals in a group. Catachan jungle fighters report that devils will specifically target officers, heavy weapons specialists, and communications personnel, as if understanding the importance of these roles. A devil will wait for the group to separate or for individuals to become isolated, then strike at the moment of maximum vulnerability. Night attacks are particularly common, with devils using their superior night vision to stalk camps and pick off sentries one by one. The most terrifying hunts are those conducted by entire nesting groups working in coordination. When multiple adult devils hunt together, they display pack tactics that rival those of the most sophisticated predators in the galaxy. One or two devils will serve as drivers, deliberately revealing themselves to panic the prey and drive them in a specific direction. Other devils position themselves in ambush along the predicted flight path. Still others flank the prey, cutting off escape routes and herding the victims into killing zones. This coordinated hunting allows devils to take down prey far larger than individual devils could handle, including massive creatures like Catachan's shambling mammoths or even Imperial vehicles. The famous incidents of devils attacking Imperial Guard tank companies provide excellent examples of their pack hunting capabilities. When a tank column enters devil territory, the nesting group will first observe from hiding, analyzing the column's composition and movement patterns. They'll identify the command vehicles and specialized equipment, like recovery vehicles or ammunition carriers. Then, rather than launching a frontal assault, they'll strike from multiple directions simultaneously. Some devils will attack from underground, erupting beneath vehicles to flip them or tear off treads. Others will swarm over the tanks from above, using their strength and the leverage of their many limbs to tear open hatches and access panels. The tail stingers come into play here, punching through vision ports and cupolas to sting crew members inside their supposedly safe armor. The drivers and lighter vehicles, being more vulnerable, are typically targeted first. Devils understand, whether through instinct or learned experience, that immobilizing the column is the key to a successful attack. Once the vehicles are stopped and tangled together on narrow jungle trails, the devils close in for the kill. They tear apart external equipment, fuel tanks, and ammunition stores. They rock vehicles back and forth until they overturn. They use their fiddler claws to peel, open hull plates like opening canned rations. The entire process can take less than 10 minutes, leaving behind nothing but twisted metal and scattered remains. Feeding behavior in Catachan devils is equally fascinating and horrific. As mentioned, they prefer to feed on living prey, apparently requiring some component of living tissue for optimal nutrition. Their digestive enzymes are injected into the prey through the feeding tentacles, beginning the breakdown process externally before consumption. This allows devils to extract nutrients from prey much larger than they could swallow whole, essentially liquefying the victim's internal organs and drinking the resulting slurry. The bony hooks in their mouths serve to both hold the prey in place and to tear off chunks of partially digested tissue for consumption. Devils can consume truly staggering amounts of food when it's available, gorging themselves after successful hunts, and then entering periods of reduced activity while they digest. A single adult devil can eat its own body weight in a single feeding session, storing the excess as fat reserves that allow it to survive lean periods when prey is scarce. This feast or famine eating pattern is common among apex predators, but devils take it to extremes. They can go weeks without eating if necessary, their metabolism slowing to conserve energy, then snap back to full activity within minutes when food becomes available. The remains of a devil's meal are characteristically gruesome. They tend to consume everything, bones and all, leaving behind only the most indigestible materials, like metal equipment, ceramite armor plates, and occasionally the clothes of human victims. These refuse piles serve as territorial markers, warning other creatures that they're entering devil country. Experienced Catachan scouts can read these kill sites like books, determining from the size and scatter of remains how many devils were involved in the kill, roughly when it occurred, and what type of prey was taken. One particularly disturbing aspect of devil feeding behavior is their apparent ability to store living prey for later consumption. There are multiple reports, though never independently verified, of devils maintaining larders where paralyzed but living victims are kept partially buried or secured in vegetation. The paralytic venom keeps these victims alive, but helpless for days, providing fresh food as needed. If true, this would represent a level of planning and resource management rarely seen in non-sapient creatures, suggesting once again that devils are far more intelligent than their insectoid appearance might suggest. Hellmade world. Catachan's ecosystem. To understand the Catachan devil truly, we must understand the nightmare world that shaped it. Catachan is not merely hostile to life. It's a planet where the very concept of survival has been warped into something alien and terrible. Every aspect of the planet's ecosystem seems designed specifically to kill, and the devils are simply the most successful killers in an environment where everything is trying to murder everything else. Catachan's jungles are dense to a degree that defies imagination for anyone who hasn't experienced them. The vegetation grows at an accelerated rate that seems to violate known biological principles, with trees capable of adding meters to their height in a matter of weeks. This rapid growth is driven by the planet's unique atmospheric composition, which includes higher concentrations of carbon dioxide than Terran norm, along with a cocktail of other gases that would be toxic to most life forms. The sunlight that does penetrate Catachan's perpetual cloud cover is harsh and mutagenic, contributing to the rapid evolution and bizarre forms of the native life. The jungle floor itself is a constantly shifting hazard zone. The soil, such as it is, consists largely of decaying vegetation, mixed with the chitinous remains of countless dead insects and the bones of larger creatures. This creates a spongy, unstable surface that can give way without warning, plunging the unwary into pits filled with stagnant water, aggressive fungi, and burrowing predators. The famous singing bogs of Catachan are particularly treacherous, appearing as solid ground, but consisting of layers of vegetation floating atop deep pits of sucking mud. The singing comes from gases released by decomposition, creating an eerie musical note that serves as the only warning before the ground collapses. The plant life of Catachan deserves special mention, as it's every bit as dangerous as the animal life. The barbed Veman gorse is perhaps the most infamous, a carnivorous plant that possesses a disturbing level of awareness and mobility. It actively hunts prey, using its barbed tentacles to drag victims toward its central digestion chamber. The venom from a single Veman gorse is potent enough to kill the population of a hive city, making it one of the most toxic organisms known to the Imperium. The fact that Catachan's herbivores have evolved resistance to this venom speaks to the extreme selective pressures operating on the planet. Brainleaf represents another category of horror entirely. This innocuous-looking tree has the ability to attach its tendrils to the spine and brain of any animal, taking complete control of the victim's body. The victim remains conscious throughout the process, trapped as a passenger in their own body, as the brainleaf uses them to hunt food for itself. Some xenobiologists speculate that the brainleaf is actually a tyrannid organism, specifically a feral descendant of the cortex leech, separated from the hive mind and forced to survive independently. If true, this suggests that Catachan might have encountered tyrannids long before the Imperium's official first contact with the species. The Catachan mantrap is mobile and aggressive, actively seeking out prey rather than waiting for it to come to them like most carnivorous plants. Its leaf jaws can close with enough force to shear through flesh and bone, and it moves across the jungle floor with surprising speed for a plant. The stranglevine prefers shadier spots, but is no less deadly, using adhesive stamens to wrap around prey and slowly squeeze the life from them. And the Kanak floater, filled with lighter-than-air gases, drifts on Catachan's winds until its heat-detecting tentacles locate a warm-blooded creature, at which point it explodes, scattering razor-sharp seed pods in all directions. Among Catachan's animal life, the devils compete with numerous other apex predators for dominance. The shambling mammorphs of the volcanic regions are massive pseudo-reptilian creatures that can match devils in size and ferocity. These territorial beasts have been observed fighting devils for hunting grounds, battles that can last for hours and leave the jungle devastated in a radius of hundreds of meters. The fact that devils and mammorphs seem evenly matched suggests that neither has a decisive evolutionary advantage. leading to an uneasy balance between the two species. Blood wasps, while individually tiny, represent a different kind of threat. These swarming insects can strip a human to the bone in less than an hour, and they attack in clouds of thousands. Even devils avoid disturbing blood wasp nests when possible, as even their thick armor has gaps and vulnerable points that the wasps can exploit. The various snake species of Catachan are equally lethal, with toxins so powerful that they can kill in less than 30 heartbeats. The flying swamp mamba, coiling death cobra, and Catachan black viper are all capable of killing unprotected humans with a single bite, and they're common enough that Catachan natives treat encounters with them as routine hazards of daily life. Perhaps the most dangerous creature on Catachan, even more so than the devils, is the great barking toad. This amphibian appears harmless, even benign, but it has a terrifying defense mechanism. When threatened, it self-destructs in a chemical explosion that creates a toxic cloud lethal to all life within a 1-kilometer radius. Nothing survives this detonation, not power-armored space marines, not sealed vehicles, not even other barking toads. The sheer indiscriminate lethality of this creature has made it a legendary terror, and Catachan natives learn from childhood to give barking toads an extremely wide berth. Some Imperial theorists have suggested weaponizing these creatures, but the idea has been rejected due to the impossibility of controlling or directing their explosive response. The aquatic life of Catachan's rivers and swamps adds another dimension to the planet's hostility. Vein worms secrete a numbing ooze that prevents their victims from feeling the worm burrow into their bloodstream to lay eggs. The larvae then spread throughout the body, eating their way through vital organs over the course of weeks. There is no known cure once the larvae reach the brain, making veinworm infection a death sentence. Various parasitic fish species fill Catachan's waters, along with amphibious predators that can pursue prey onto land. Even the water itself is dangerous, containing bacteria and microorganisms that can cause fatal infections from the smallest cut or abrasion. The airspace above Catachan is equally hostile. Drake bats, ogre-sized pseudo-reptiles with leathery wings, lurk in the upper canopy, dropping onto unsuspecting prey from above. These creatures hunt in packs, using coordinated attacks to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Various species of stinging flies, biting insects, and disease-carrying pests fill the air, making every breath a potential exposure to some new toxin or pathogen. The very atmosphere is thick with spores from countless fungal species, many of which can colonize living flesh or cause hallucinations and madness. In this environment of universal hostility, the Catachan devil has found its niche as the dominant land predator of the jungle floor. Devils are not apex predators because they're the largest or the most poisonous or the most numerous, but rather because they're the most adaptable. They can hunt in trees or on the ground. They can pursue prey or ambush it. They can kill alone or in groups. They can eat almost anything organic and digest it efficiently. They can tolerate injuries that would kill most creatures, their distributed nervous system allowing them to continue functioning even when severely wounded. And they can learn, adapting their tactics to face new challenges and threats. The relationship between devils and other Catachan life forms is complex. They compete with mammorphs and other large predators for territory and prey. They prey upon the herbivores that have evolved to resist the planet's toxic flora. They avoid the barking toads and the most aggressive plant species, and they've adapted to human presence on the planet, learning to recognize humans as both potential prey and significant threats. In essence, devils are products of their environment, shaped by millions of years of evolution in one of the most hostile locations in the known galaxy. This ecosystem creates a cycle of escalating adaptation. As prey species develop new defenses, predators must evolve new methods of attack. As predators become more lethal, prey must develop even more effective defenses. The result is an evolutionary arms race that has pushed both predator and prey to extremes rarely seen elsewhere. Devils are not simply large predators, they're the perfected result of this process. Creatures that have won the arms race and maintained their dominance for what may be millions of years. But even apex predators face challenges. Devils must compete with each other for territory and resources. They must deal with the same environmental hazards that threaten every other creature on Catachan. They suffer from parasites, diseases, and injuries, accumulated over their long lives. And increasingly, they must contend with humans, the one species on Catachan that can potentially challenge their dominance not through physical superiority, but through intelligence, technology, and sheer stubborn determination to survive. The deadliest dance, devils and humanity. The relationship between Catachan devils and the humans who share their world is complex, defined by mutual threat, grudging respect, and countless generations of violent interaction. To the people of Catachan, devils represent both the ultimate danger and the ultimate test of a warrior's worth. The creatures have shaped Catachan culture as much as the humans have adapted to living in devil territory. Human settlement on Catachan is a precarious affair under the best circumstances. The few surviving settlements are massive fortress complexes surrounded by cleared kill zones, designed to provide clear lines of fire against the endless parade of threats approaching from the jungle. These settlements must be constantly maintained, as Catachan's vegetation grows back with frightening speed, and the planet's various predators are always probing the defenses for weaknesses. Buildings must be rebuilt frequently as vines crush walls, poison eats through mortar, and various boring insects undermine foundations. The settlements shift location every few years as the jungle gradually overwhelms the cleared areas, forcing the population to abandon their homes and rebuild elsewhere. Devils represent a special threat to these settlements. A single adult devil can devastate a poorly defended compound, bursting through walls and slaughtering the inhabitants with ease. A nesting group can destroy an entire settlement if they decide the human presence represents a threat to their territory. Catachan's history is littered with stories of settlements that grew too large or expanded too far, attracting the attention of nearby devil nests. The survivors of such attacks speak of the overwhelming terror of facing multiple devils simultaneously, the creatures working together to methodically tear apart every building and hunt down every hiding survivor. But humans don't simply cower before the devils. They fight back. Catachan jungle fighters, the planet's contribution to the Imperial Guard, are among the most effective light infantry in the entire Imperium, precisely because they grew up learning to survive in devil territory. Every Catachan child who lives to adulthood has learned to move silently through the jungle, to read tracks and signs, to set traps and ambushes, and to kill efficiently with whatever tools are at hand. These skills are not optional. They're the price of survival on a world where every day brings fresh opportunities to die horribly. The coming-of-age tradition for young Catachans involves hunting and killing a devil, specifically one of the smaller juveniles, or, for the truly ambitious, a full-sized adult. This is not a casual undertaking. Even a juvenile devil is more than capable of killing an armed and trained human, and many young Catachans die on their first devil hunt. Those who succeed earn tremendous status within their community, having proven their courage and skill in the most definitive way possible. Those who manage to kill an adult devil, particularly a fiddler, become legends in their own time, their deeds recounted in settlements across the planet. The techniques for hunting devils have been refined over centuries of bitter experience. The first rule is never to hunt alone. Devils can and will kill individual humans with contemptuous ease, but they become more cautious when facing organized groups. The second rule is to engage at range when possible. Heavy weapons, particularly flamers and melter weapons, are preferred for their ability to damage the devil's tough armor. Las rifles are marginally effective, sufficient to wound but rarely to kill unless the shooter is extraordinarily skilled and lucky. The third rule is to target weak points. The gaps between armor segments, the eyes, the mouth, and the underside of the body are all vulnerable if you can get a clean shot. Experienced devil hunters often use the creature's own territoriality against them. By loudly entering a devil's territory and making no attempt at stealth, hunters can sometimes provoke the creature into attacking at a time and place of the hunter's choosing, where they've prepared traps and firing positions. The alternative, trying to track and surprise a devil in its own territory, is usually suicidal. Even the most skilled Catachan trackers admit that devils can detect human presence with uncanny accuracy, and trying to stalk a creature that's better at stealth than you are is asking to become prey instead of predator. Traps are a favored tactic, particularly pit traps lined with sharpened stakes. The trick is making the pit deep enough that the devil can't simply climb out using its many legs, which requires digging down 5 meters or more. Explosive traps can work if placed correctly, but devils seem to have an instinctive wariness of disturbed ground and will often avoid areas where trap setting is suspected. Poison is largely ineffective, as devils have remarkable resistance to toxins, likely an adaptation to Catachan's toxic ecosystem. The most reliable method remains overwhelming firepower delivered at point-blank range, which is precisely the range at which devils are most dangerous. There are stories, possibly apocryphal, of individual Catachan warriors who've made careers out of hunting devils. These legendary hunters supposedly understand devil behavior well enough to predict their movements, to recognize individual devils by subtle differences in their tracks or hunting patterns, and to exploit tiny weaknesses that most people would never notice. Whether these stories are true or embellished, they serve an important cultural function, providing hope that humans can not only survive in devil territory, but actually dominate these perfect predators through skill and knowledge. The elite Catachan devil squads of the Imperial Guard take their name from these creatures, and it's not merely symbolic. These squads are composed of veterans who've each successfully hunted and killed devils, warriors who've proven themselves against the deadliest predator on the deadliest world. They bring devil-honed skills to battlefields across the galaxy, skills that prove devastatingly effective against enemies who've never faced anything like Catachan's lethal ecosystem. The devils taught these men to move silently through any terrain, to set perfect ambushes, to kill efficiently in close combat, and to never give up no matter how desperate the situation. These lessons, learned at the cost of countless Catachan lives, make Devil Squad members among the most feared soldiers in the Imperium. Individual Catachan warriors earn the right to carry weapons named after devils through demonstrated prowess. The Devil's Claw, a massive blade somewhere between a large knife and a short sword, is reserved for those who've proven themselves in devil hunts. These weapons are themselves formidable, crafted from the unique metal alloys found only on Catachan, holding an edge that never dulls and never rusts. The symbolism is clear. To carry a devil's claw is to claim the killing power of the creature itself, to embody the devil's lethal efficiency in human form. But not all encounters between humans and devils end in victory for the humans. Catachan's graveyards are full of markers for warriors who fell to devils, and these are only the ones whose bodies were recovered for burial. Many more simply disappear into the jungle, taken by devils and consumed without trace. Some of these victims were experienced hunters, veterans of countless battles who simply had the bad luck to encounter a particularly cunning devil or to stumble upon a full nesting group. The jungle takes no account of reputation or past victories when it claims its due. The most devastating devil attacks on human settlements follow a predictable pattern. First comes the reconnaissance phase, where one or more devils observe the settlement from the jungle, learning patrol routes, identifying defensive weaknesses, and studying the behavior patterns of the inhabitants. This can last for days or even weeks, during which the humans might have no idea they're being watched. Then comes the probing phase, where devils test the defenses with small attacks, usually at night, seeing how quickly the humans respond and how effectively they can bring weapons to bear. Finally, If the devils decide the settlement is vulnerable enough to be worth the risk, comes the main assault. This assault typically occurs at the darkest part of the night, with multiple devils attacking from different directions simultaneously. The creatures prioritize certain targets. Communications equipment is destroyed, first to prevent calls for help, then heavy weapons emplacements, then the command structures. The devils demonstrate a disturbing understanding of human military organization, suggesting they've learned from previous encounters or possess some form of intelligence that allows them to recognize hierarchical structures. Within minutes, a settlement can be reduced to burning ruins, filled with screaming wounded and scattered defenders fighting desperately against multiple devils that can see perfectly in the darkness. Even when humans successfully defend against devil attacks, the cost is often severe. Ammunition expenditure is enormous, as concentrated firepower is the only reliable way to bring down an adult devil. Casualties mount quickly, as devils close to melee range, where their multiple limbs and superior physical strength give them overwhelming advantages. And the psychological impact of facing devils in combat cannot be understated. These are creatures from a nightmare, massive, chitinous monsters that keep coming even after sustaining wounds that would drop most other creatures. Soldiers who've never faced devils before often break and flee at their first encounter, requiring veteran leadership and discipline to keep units cohesive in the face of such primal terror. The relationship between Catachans and devils has produced a complex set of cultural attitudes. Devils are simultaneously the most feared and most respected creatures on the planet. They're the enemy that must be defeated for human settlement to survive, but also the ultimate standard by which warrior prowess is measured. Killing a devil elevates a Catachan from merely competent to genuinely elite. Surviving an encounter with a devil nest marks you as someone touched by luck or favor, depending on your personal beliefs. And taking down a fiddler, that's the stuff of legend, a deed that will be remembered and recounted for generations. This cultural centrality has led to devils appearing throughout Catachan artistic expression. Cave paintings in the oldest settlements depict devils, suggesting they've been part of human experience on Catachan since the first colonists arrived. Traditional Catachan music includes work songs that mimic devil hunting calls, both to intimidate enemies and to prepare young warriors for the real thing. Tattoos depicting devils are common among veteran jungle fighters, with the size and detail of the tattoo indicating the level of personal experience with these creatures. To have a devil tattoo is to claim you faced them and survived, a claim that will be vigorously challenged if found to be false. The proliferation of devil imagery in Catachan military culture has spread throughout the Imperial Guard, wherever Catachan regiments are deployed. Other Guard regiments have learned to recognize the distinctive Catachan devil iconography and to give appropriate respect to those who bear it. A soldier wearing the devil insignia has proven themselves in ways that most guardsmen cannot even imagine. They've survived childhood on the deadliest planet in the Imperium. They've hunted and killed creatures that could slaughter entire squads of regular soldiers. They've learned lessons in violence and survival that no amount of standard Imperial Guard training could possibly replicate. Weaponizing the devil, Imperial ambitions and disasters. The Imperium of man, in its eternal quest for new weapons to throw at its countless enemies, has inevitably tried to harness the killing power of Catachan devils for military purposes. These attempts have ranged from ambitious to delusional, and they've universally ended in failure, often catastrophic failure, that cost lives and resources while providing stark lessons about the limits of Imperial control over nature's most perfect killers. The initial proposals for devil weaponization came from well-meaning but ultimately naive tech priests who observed devils in action and saw potential. War beasts of tremendous value. Their reasoning seemed sound on paper. Devils were armored, fast, and deadly. They could traverse any terrain. They could hunt autonomously without requiring handlers. They were naturally aggressive and territorial. Surely, these priests reasoned, such creatures could be trained, or at minimum, directed toward enemy targets, much like servo skulls or other semi-autonomous weapons. The first problem with this thinking became apparent during the earliest capture attempts. Devils do not submit to capture easily. They fight with suicidal determination when cornered, using every weapon at their disposal to kill or maim their captors. Even juvenile devil spawn can kill multiple armed humans before being subdued, and adult devils are effectively impossible to capture alive without overwhelming force. The few successful captures required entire companies of Imperial Guards supported by heavy weapons and armored vehicles, and even then casualties were significant. One early attempt to capture a fiddler resulted in the complete destruction of the capture force, with the devil escaping into the jungle and the expedition yielding nothing but body bags. Those devils that were successfully captured proved utterly intractable. They cannot be trained in any meaningful sense. They do not respond to reward or punishment conditioning. They do not form bonds with handlers. They simply wait for any opportunity to escape or to kill their captors, demonstrating a patience and determination that suggests something approaching sapience. Multiple tech priests lost their lives learning these lessons, often in graphic fashion, that served as deterrent to others who might have considered the same approach. The focus then shifted from training to simple relocation. If devils couldn't be controlled, perhaps they could simply be transported to Imperial worlds under threat of invasion and released to function as organic area denial weapons. The theory was that the devils' natural territoriality would cause them to attack any creatures entering their established territory, be they orcs, tyranids, chaos cultists, or whatever other threat the Imperium faced. This plan had the virtue of simplicity. It didn't require training devils, just moving them and letting nature take its course. The implementation revealed numerous flaws in this simple concept. First, transporting devils proved nearly as difficult as capturing them. The creatures had to be kept sedated during transit, which required massive doses of tranquilizers that often proved fatal. Those that survived the journey typically woke during transport, leading to containment breaches that turned cargo holds into abattoirs. Multiple transport vessels have been lost to devil outbreaks mid-voyage, the creatures slaughtering the entire crew and then dying as the ship drifted powerlessly through the void, or crashed on whatever planet happened to be nearby. Even when devils were successfully transported and released on target worlds, the results were unpredictable at best. On some worlds, devils established territories and did indeed attack invading forces as predicted. On others, they focused on the local human population instead, viewing colonists as easier prey than well-armed Xenos invaders. And on several worlds, devils simply died out within a few years, unable to adapt to ecosystems that lacked Catachan's unique characteristics. The investment in capturing, transporting, and releasing devils far exceeded any military benefit gained, particularly given the Imperial Guard's proven effectiveness at defending worlds through more conventional means. But perhaps the most catastrophic consequences of devil translocation have been the escape events. Devils are escape artists of truly frightening ability. They can squeeze through gaps that seem impossibly small. They can chew through materials that should be impenetrable. They can remain motionless for days, lulling guards into complacency, then burst into violent action at the first opportunity. Over the centuries of attempted devil weaponization, dozens, if not hundreds of specimens have escaped from Imperial custody, fleeing into whatever local environment they happened to occupy at the time. These escaped devils have established breeding populations on worlds never meant to host such creatures. There are confirmed sightings of devil nests in the underhives of multiple hive worlds, where they've adapted to hunting among the endless machinery and detritus of the lower levels. These urban devils pose unique challenges to hive security forces, as they've learned to use the complex three-dimensional environment of the underhive to their advantage, attacking from drainage pipes, ventilation shafts, and maintenance crawlways. Entire hab blocks have been abandoned after devil infestations, the creatures proving impossible to root out without simply collapsing sections of the hive on top of them. Feral worlds and civilized worlds with significant wilderness areas have also reported devil populations. These creatures compete with local fauna, often becoming apex predators in their new homes. In some cases, they've disrupted local ecosystems to the point of causing extinctions of native species. In others, they've adapted so successfully that their numbers have exploded beyond what was seen on Catachan, creating infestation problems that require Imperial Guard intervention to control. The irony of deploying the Guard to eliminate devils that the Guard itself helped spread across the galaxy is not lost on Imperial administrators, though few would be foolish enough to voice such criticism openly. There are also numerous unconfirmed reports of devil sightings on Forge worlds, space hulks, and even, horrifyingly, on vessels of the Imperial Navy. These reports are officially dismissed as impossible, as devils should not be able to survive in such environments. However, the persistent nature of the reports and the occasional recovery of distinctive devil remains from these locations suggests that at least some specimens have achieved truly terrifying levels of adaptability. The thought of devils loose aboard Navy vessels, hunting through the endless corridors and access tunnels, is the stuff of nightmares for crew members and has spawned countless horror tales shared in quiet tones during night watch. The Imperium's official stance on devil weaponization has shifted over the millennia. Current doctrine acknowledges that attempts to control or direct devils are fundamentally futile. However, the strategic value of introducing devils to enemy-held worlds remains officially recognized, despite the catastrophic blowback such policies have occasionally caused. The calculus is grim but simple. If releasing devils on a world denies that world to the enemy, even if it also denies it to the Imperium, the action may still be justified from a purely military perspective. This reasoning has resulted in multiple human worlds becoming uninhabitable. Death worlds is considered an acceptable cost in the Imperium's endless wars. Individual inquisitors and rogue traders continue to show interest in devils, despite centuries of failures. Some seek specimens for private menageries or as curiosities. Others believe they can succeed where the Mechanicus failed, perhaps through psychic control or more advanced biotechnology. A few radical inquisitors have even proposed using gene manipulation to create modified devils that retain the killing power while gaining some measure of controllability. None of these schemes have yielded positive results, and many have ended in the investigators becoming prey to the very creatures they sought to master. The lesson, learned and relearned at tremendous cost over thousands of years, is simple. Catachan devils cannot be weaponized, controlled, or directed by human will. They are forces of nature, as unstoppable and indiscriminate as volcanic eruptions or plague outbreaks. The best humanity can do is understand them well enough to survive in their presence, which the people of Catachan have managed through bloody experience, and to avoid spreading them to worlds that don't already bear that burden. That this lesson continues to be ignored by ambitious tech priests and delusional military planners speaks to the depth of human foolishness and the eternal imperial appetite for weapons that might provide an edge in the endless war for survival. Ancient origins, the Tyrannid connection theory. Among the many mysteries surrounding Catachan devils, perhaps none is more disturbing than the possibility that they might not be native to Catachan at all. Since the Imperium's first confirmed contact with the Tyrannids in the 41st millennium, certain xenobiologists and magos biologists have put forth a controversial theory that Catachan devils are in fact feral Tyrannid organisms, descendants of an ancient scout swarm that arrived on Catachan millennia before humanity and somehow became separated from the hive mind. The evidence for this theory, while circumstantial, is compelling enough to have sparked serious debate within the Adeptus Mechanicus. The most obvious similarity is physical appearance. Devils share numerous morphological features with confirmed Tyrannid organisms, particularly raveners and rippers. Like raveners, devils possess segmented bodies with multiple limbs, the ability to burrow and move at high speed, and a snake-like flexibility that allows movement through impossibly tight spaces. Like rippers, they display pack behavior, coordinated hunting tactics, and the ability to overwhelm prey through numbers when young. The mouth structure of devils is eerily similar to certain tyrannid bioforms. The extendable maw, the bony hooks instead of teeth, the tentacles equipped with stinging cells, all of these features appear in various tyrannid organisms. The digestive enzymes devils use to liquefy prey are chemically similar to those employed by tyrannid organisms, suggesting either shared evolutionary origin or, more disturbingly, actual genetic relationship. The green luminescence of devil eyes matches the characteristic bioluminescence seen in many tyrannid creatures, possibly indicating similar biochemical processes at work. Beyond physical similarities, behavioral parallels strengthen the theory. Devils display the same ruthless efficiency in killing that characterizes tyrannid warfare. They show similar pack coordination, with individuals working together seamlessly, despite appearing to lack any visible means of communication. They demonstrate a level of tactical awareness and adaptability that seems excessive for simple predatory instincts, more reminiscent of tyrannid bioforms responding to hive mind direction. And they reproduce rapidly and consume vast amounts of biomass, much like tyrannid organisms preparing planets for fleet consumption. The proponents of the tyrannid theory point to other Catachan lifeforms that might share this origin. The brain leaf, with its ability to control the bodies and minds of other creatures, bears striking similarity to the tyrannid cortex leech. The Catachan barking toad's chemical detonation defense resembles certain tyrannid organisms that explode when threatened, spreading bioacids and toxins. Even some of Catachan's plant life shows characteristics consistent with tyrannid bioengineering, including the ability to rapidly grow and spread, aggressive predation of animal life, and production of potent toxins. The theory suggests a specific scenario for how this situation arose. At some point in the distant past, possibly tens of thousands of years ago, a tyrannid scout swarm arrived at Catachan. These early-stage organisms, including what would become the devils, began the usual process of terraforming the planet to make it suitable for the main fleet. However, before they could complete this process and send the beacon to summon the fleet, something went wrong. The organisms became separated from the hive mind, either through some malfunction, deliberate hive mind abandonment of scouts that were taking too long, or interference from Catachan's unusual environment. Cut off from central direction, these proto-devils had to survive on their own. They began to evolve independently, adapting to Catachan's unique challenges without the guiding influence of the hive mind. Over millennia, they transformed from tyrannid bioweapons into something new, retaining much of their original lethality, but developing behaviors and characteristics shaped by Catachan rather than the hive mind. They established territories, formed complex social structures, and evolved reproductive methods suited to their new environment. They became, in essence, naturalized citizens of Catachan, indistinguishable from native organisms, except to experts looking for specific tells. This theory would explain several puzzling aspects of devils. It would explain their seemingly excessive lethality. They were designed as weapons rather than products of normal evolution. It would explain their unusual intelligence and tactical awareness, remnants of hive mind conditioning that persist even in isolation. It would explain their rapid growth and reproduction, characteristics that make sense for organisms meant to quickly consume a planet's biomass. And it would explain why devils seem almost too perfectly adapted to be apex predators. They were engineered for that purpose, rather than having evolved into the role through natural selection. However, the theory has significant weaknesses that critics are quick to point out. Tyrannid organisms separated from the hive mind typically demonstrate severe behavioral degradation, becoming nearly mindless killing machines that quickly die out. Devils, by contrast, display sophisticated behaviors and have survived for what must be an extraordinarily long period without hive mind direction. Tyrannid bioforms show genetic similarity across the galaxy, yet genetic analysis of devil tissue, such as it is, shows no definitive markers linking them to confirmed tyrannid organisms. And most damningly, If devils were indeed Tyranid scouts, why hasn't the hive mind ever returned to Catachan to reclaim or eliminate them? Some theorists attempt to reconcile these objections by suggesting that devils aren't failed Tyranid scouts, but rather successful ones that achieved something unprecedented: true evolutionary independence from the hive mind. Perhaps the separation process was gradual rather than sudden, allowing the organisms to adapt incrementally rather than experiencing catastrophic behavioral collapse. Perhaps Catachan's unique environment provided selective pressures that pushed the organisms toward independence, essentially forcing them to evolve beyond their original programming. Perhaps they represent a failure mode in Tyranid biology, a mutation that allows for survival without the hive mind, but at the cost of the connection that makes Tyranid organisms so effective as a species. Alternative explanations exist that don't require a Tyranid connection. Devils could simply be the product of parallel evolution, developing similar solutions to similar problems as Tyranid organisms have. Catachan's extreme environment could have pushed evolution toward the same efficient killing machines that the Tyranids deliberately engineer. The physical similarities might be coincidental, or they might reflect universal principles of predatory biology that apply whether evolution is natural or directed. The behavioral similarities could be explained by convergent evolution, producing similar solutions to the challenges of hunting and killing prey efficiently. What makes this debate more than academic is the potential implications if the Tyranid theory proves true. If devils are descended from Tyranid organisms, what does that mean for humanity's relationship with them? Are they still technically Tyranids, enemies to be exterminated regardless of their current state? Or have they become something else entirely, divorced from their origins, and now native to Catachan in any meaningful sense? More troublingly, if devils can survive and thrive without the hive mind, what does that suggest about Tyranid biology? Could other Tyranid organisms similarly break free? Could entire hive fleets potentially fragment into independent organisms that continue to threaten humanity without the coordinating influence of the hive mind? The Inquisition takes the theory seriously enough to have classified all detailed genetic studies of devils as restricted information, available only to those with appropriate clearance. This suggests that whatever the truth might be, imperial authorities consider the knowledge potentially dangerous. Whether this is because the theory is true and they want to prevent panic, or because it's false and they want to prevent the spread of disinformation, or for some other reason entirely, remains unknown to anyone without access to the highest levels of inquisitorial authority. For the people of Catachan, the debate is largely academic. Whether devils evolved naturally or were engineered by alien hive minds makes little practical difference when you're facing 30 meters of chitinous killing machine. The creatures must be survived, hunted, and occasionally killed regardless of their origins. If they're Tyranid descendants, they're feral ones that have been part of Catachan's ecosystem longer than humans have. If they're natural evolution, they're still the deadliest predators on the deadliest world in the Imperium. Either way, they're devils, and that's all that matters to someone trying not to become their next meal. Legacy of the Predator, cultural impact and symbolism. The Catachan devil has transcended its biological reality to become something more, a cultural symbol, a standard of excellence, and a defining element of Catachan identity. The creature that terrorizes human settlements and kills Catachan citizens has paradoxically become the very emblem of what it means to be Catachan, demonstrating the complex relationship between humans and the apex predator that shares their world. The most visible manifestation of this cultural centrality is in the naming traditions. The Devil's Claw, the largest and most prestigious of Catachan knives, bears the creature's name as a mark of respect and implied threat. To wield a Devil's Claw is to claim mastery over the tools of death, to embody the killing efficiency of the creature itself. These blades, measuring 3 to 4 feet in length and weighted with mercury for devastating cutting power, are reserved for those who've proven themselves in the most demanding tests of Catachan's warrior culture. The fact that they're named for the creature's most devastating weapon, the grotesquely enlarged claws of elder fiddlers, speaks to the reverence Catachans hold for their planet's premier killer. The knife's significance goes beyond mere symbolism. The steel used in authentic Catachan knives comes from ore found only on Catachan itself, metal that never rusts and holds an edge indefinitely. Some xenobiologists have speculated that this metal's unique properties result from the same environmental factors that make Catachan so hostile to life, perhaps mineral content shaped by the planet's unusual geology, or metal that's been chemically altered by the toxic atmosphere. Whatever the reason, a genuine Catachan Devil's Claw represents not just a weapon, but a piece of Catachan itself, a shard of the death world made portable. The Catachan Devil Squads of the Imperial Guard represent another form of the creature's cultural impact. These elite formations consist of veterans who've not only survived Catachan, but excelled there, who've hunted devils and lived to tell the tale. They adopt the devil's name as their own, claiming its reputation and its implicit threat. When other Imperial Guard regiments see Catachan devils approaching, they know they're facing soldiers who've been tested in ways most humans cannot comprehend. These warriors don't just fight like devils, they've learned from devils, studying the creature's tactics and incorporating them into human warfare. Devil Squad tactics mirror those of actual devils in several respects. They excel at stealth and ambush, appearing from nowhere to strike devastating blows before melting back into cover. They use terrain to their advantage, positioning themselves in places where enemies don't expect attack. They coordinate seamlessly, working together like a devil nesting group to isolate and destroy targets. They're patient hunters, willing to wait for hours or days for the perfect opportunity to strike. And they're absolutely ruthless in close combat, trained to kill quickly and efficiently with blades when circumstances demand it. The psychological impact of the devil name cannot be overstated. Enemies who've heard of Catachan devils, whether the creatures or the soldiers, approach combat with them from a position of psychological disadvantage. They know they're facing something exceptional, something that's earned a fearsome reputation through demonstrated killing power. This reputation warfare is not accidental. Catachan military culture deliberately cultivates the connection to devils, using the creature's terrifying image to enhance human warriors' psychological impact on the battlefield. Catachan tattoo traditions feature devils prominently, with the designs serving as permanent records of personal encounters with the creatures. A simple devil outline might indicate survival of an encounter. A more detailed rendering suggests participation in a hunt. A full-body devil tattoo covering back and arms marks someone who's killed multiple devils, possibly including an adult or even a fiddler. These tattoos aren't decoration, they're credentials, proof of prowess that other Catachans can read at a glance. Falsely claiming such tattoos is a serious offense in Catachan culture, often settled with blade duels that provide definitive proof of whether the claimant actually possesses the skills their ink suggests. The architectural legacy of devils manifests in settlement design. Every human habitation on Catachan must account for the possibility of devil attack. Walls must be thick enough and strong enough to withstand devil assault, at least temporarily. Firing positions must provide clear lanes for heavy weapons that can actually damage devil armor. Gates and portals must be designed to prevent devil entry while allowing quick human passage. Kill zones around settlements must be wide enough that devils can't reach the walls in a single charge. All of these defensive considerations shape how Catachans build, making their settlements unique in imperial architecture through the specific demands of defending against giant insectoid predators. Devils appear throughout Catachan oral tradition and storytelling. Every settlement has its legends of devil encounters, tales of heroic hunters or tragic deaths that serve both as entertainment and education. Children grow up hearing these stories, learning from them the behaviors that lead to survival and those that result in becoming a devil's meal. The stories emphasize certain themes: respect for the devil's power, the importance of preparation and vigilance, the value of community and cooperation when facing such threats, and the harsh truth that even the best warriors can fall to these creatures if luck turns against them. Catachan visual art frequently depicts devils, from cave paintings by the earliest settlers to more sophisticated renderings by contemporary artists. These artworks typically emphasize the creature's size, power, and alien nature, often showing devils in the act of hunting or attacking human prey. The message is clear. Devils are the standard against which all other threats are measured. If you can face a devil and survive, you can face anything the galaxy might throw at you. This artistic tradition has spread beyond Catachan, wherever jungle fighters are deployed, with murals and paintings of devils appearing in Imperial Guard bases across multiple sectors. The devil has even influenced Catachan music and poetry. Work songs used during jungle clearing operations often include rhythmic elements meant to evoke devil movement patterns, both as a form of respect and as psychological preparation for potential encounters. Battle hymns sung by jungle fighter regiments incorporate imagery of devils, comparing the regiment's warriors to these perfect killers. And somber memorial songs commemorate those who've fallen to devils, acknowledging the creature's role as harvesters that take their due from every generation of Catachans. Perhaps most telling is how Catachans use devil references as compliments. To say someone hunts like a devil is to praise their stealth and efficiency. To call someone tough as a devil acknowledges exceptional resilience. To note that someone strikes like a devil commends their speed and decisiveness in combat. Even to say someone eats like a devil is to admiringly reference their ability to consume large amounts of food rapidly, a useful trait on a world where you never know when your next meal might come. These linguistic patterns reveal how deeply devils have become integrated into Catachan thought and self-conception. The relationship between Catachans and devils has been described as simultaneous enmity and admiration. Devils kill Catachans regularly, making them deadly enemies that must be opposed. But devils also embody everything Catachans aspire to be: absolutely lethal, perfectly adapted to their environment, and victorious over all challenges through sheer prowess. This paradox doesn't trouble Catachans, who understand that you can respect something while also fighting it, that honoring an enemy's capabilities doesn't mean accepting defeat. If anything, it makes victories over devils more meaningful, because you've overcome something truly worthy of respect, rather than some lesser threat. Chronicles of death, notable encounters, and incidents. The recorded history of human interaction with Catachan devils is written in blood and marked by countless tragedies, with occasional moments of triumph that become legendary for their rarity and the extraordinary circumstances that made them possible. These encounters, documented in imperial records and Catachan oral tradition, provide insight into both the devil's capabilities and human capacity for survival against overwhelming odds. The massacre of Settlement Primus stands as one of the earliest and most devastating devil attacks in recorded Catachan history. In the early years of imperial colonization, settlers established what they believed was a secure compound in a promising region of jungle. The settlement grew rapidly, reaching a population of nearly 5,000 before disaster struck. Unknown to the colonists, they had built their settlement directly atop a vast devil nesting complex. For years, the devils observed from underground tunnels, learning human patterns and waiting. When the attack came, it was coordinated and overwhelming. Multiple adult devils burst from the ground simultaneously throughout the settlement, while devil spawn swarmed from hundreds of tunnel exits. Within 2 hours, Settlement Primus ceased to exist. The few survivors who reached neighboring settlements brought tales of devils appearing from nowhere, of coordinated attacks that seemed almost intelligently planned, and of the absolute terror of facing dozens of these creatures simultaneously. The ruins of Settlement Primus remain to this day, overgrown and avoided, a monument to the folly of underestimating devil territories, the hunt of old. Broken Tail represents the opposite end of the spectrum, a rare human victory over one of Catachan's most legendary devils. Old Broken Tail was a fiddler of extraordinary size and age. estimated at over 50 years old based on scaring and body segment count. The creature's distinctive broken tail stinger, result of some ancient battle, made it instantly recognizable. For decades, Old Broken Tail hunted near settlement Tertius, taking dozens of victims and successfully evading multiple hunting parties. The creature seemed to possess uncanny awareness of human tactics, avoiding traps and ambushes that should have been foolproof. The final hunt required the combined efforts of 3 experienced hunting parties operating in coordination, over 200 warriors. Even then, the battle lasted 8 hours and cost 37 lives before Old Broken Tail finally fell to concentrated heavy weapons fire. The creature's body, when measured, exceeded 32 meters in length and bore scars from countless previous encounters. Old Broken Tail's skull now occupies a place of honor in Settlement Tertius's Hall of Records, a reminder that even the deadliest devils can eventually be overcome by human determination and sacrifice. The Tank Company incident of 923.M41 demonstrated Devil's capabilities against armored forces in terrifying detail. The 47th Catachan Armored Regiment, fresh from successful campaigns against Orc invaders, entered a contested region to secure it for a new settlement. The column consisted of 23 Lehman Russ main battle tanks, 12 Chimera transports, and various support vehicles. The force was considered overwhelming by any reasonable standard, more than sufficient to handle any wildlife threat. They didn't realize they had entered the territory of one of Catachan's largest known devil nesting groups, home to at least 6 adult devils, including 2 fiddlers. The attack came at night, with devils emerging from the jungle on all sides, simultaneously. Within the first 5 minutes, 10 vehicles were disabled or destroyed, their crews slaughtered as they tried to evacuate. The remaining vehicles formed a defensive circle, but the devils had learned from previous encounters with human armor. They focused on tracks and vulnerable points, using their strength and leverage to flip tanks onto their sides. They punched through vision ports and hatches with their tail stingers, killing crew members inside their supposedly safe armor. By dawn, only 3 tanks remained operational, and even these were abandoned as survivors fled on foot. The wreckage of the 47th Armored remains in the jungle, a rusting monument to the futility of relying on technology against creatures that have millions of years of evolution on their side. The discovery of the underhive nest on Hive World Gloriana revealed the consequences of escaped devils establishing populations on non-native worlds. Gloriana was a peaceful, productive hive world with no history of dangerous wildlife. When workers began disappearing from the lower levels, authorities initially suspected gang activity or minor Xenos incursions. The truth emerged when an entire hab block, housing over 10,000 people, went dark over the course of 3 days. Security forces entering the block found it transformed into a charnel house, with devil sign everywhere and no survivors. The investigation revealed that a breeding pair of devils had been living in the underhive for at least 5 years, producing numerous offspring that had spread through the lower levels' maintenance tunnels and drainage systems. The creatures had adapted to their urban environment with frightening speed, learning to use the complex 3-dimensional space to their advantage. Extermination required the deployment of 2 full Imperial Guard regiments and took 4 months of brutal close-quarters fighting. Final casualty estimates exceeded 15,000 civilians and 1,200 guardsmen. The incident triggered mandatory devil detection protocols on numerous hive worlds and prompted urgent questions about how many other escaped devils might be lurking in Imperial infrastructure. The survival of Scout Sergeant Varak provides a rare perspective on what it's like to be hunted by a devil and somehow live to tell the tale. Varak and his 4-man scout team were conducting reconnaissance deep in Catachan's equatorial jungle when they encountered what they initially thought was a juvenile devil. Standard protocol called for immediate withdrawal and reporting of devil sightings, but the creature appeared injured and sluggish, presenting what seemed like an opportunity for a quick kill and the prestige that comes with it. They opened fire, striking the devil multiple times before realizing their mistake. It wasn't injured, it was hunting them. The seemingly sluggish movements were a feint, drawing the scouts into close range where the devil's superior speed and strength gave it every advantage. Within seconds, 3 of the scouts were dead. Varrock survived only because his teammate's dying body fell on top of him, masking his heat signature and scent, while the devil finished killing the others. He remained under the corpse for 6 hours while the devil fed, listening to the sounds of consumption and forced to lie in his friend's blood. When the devil finally left, Varrock crawled through 5 kilometers of jungle with a broken leg and torn shoulder before reaching safety. His account, recorded in the Catachan military archives, provides chilling detail about devil hunting behavior and serves as required reading for all new scouts to emphasize the importance of following established protocols. The Adeptus Mechanicus Expedition. Disaster of 892-41 serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of academic arrogance. A team of highly trained xenobiologists and tech priests arrived on Catachan with the ambitious goal of conducting the first comprehensive study of devil biology, behavior, and ecology. They came equipped with the finest Imperial technology, sensor arrays that could detect movement at kilometers away, force field generators that should have been impenetrable to biological organisms, stasis fields for specimen capture, and enough firepower to hold off a small army. They planned to establish a research station in confirmed devil territory, observe the creatures in their natural habitat, and collect specimens for detailed analysis. The expedition never sent its first scheduled report. When a search party arrived 3 weeks later, they found the research station completely destroyed. The force fields had been breached, the sensors smashed, and the weapons scattered and broken. The tech priests' bodies, or what remained of them, showed signs of being cached as food, confirming that devils do indeed maintain larders of paralyzed prey. The expedition's servo skulls recorded the attack, providing footage that is now classified, but rumored to show devils demonstrating problem-solving abilities far beyond what should be possible for non-sapient creatures. The disaster led to significant restrictions on devil research and a standing order that any such studies must be conducted with full military support. The legend of the soldier who lost his leg is actually multiple interconnected stories that have become part of Catachan folklore. Different versions circulate, but all share common elements. A lone jungle fighter, ambushed by a devil, deliberately allows the creature to seize his leg and begin feeding. While the devil is distracted, the soldier uses his knife to strike at the weak point between armor segments near the devil's head, delivering a killing blow even as he loses his limb. Multiple veterans claim to have witnessed such events, and the tactic, while undeniably extreme, is recognized as theoretically sound. When a devil is actively feeding, its attention and defenses are somewhat reduced, providing a slim window for a desperate counterattack. That anyone would have the courage and pain tolerance to actually execute this tactic speaks to the extraordinary mental fortitude required to survive on Catachan. Whether the story is literally true or represents an amalgamation of similar incidents hardly matters. It serves its purpose in illustrating Catachan values of determination, sacrifice, and the willingness to pay any price for victory. The 3-day siege of Fort Dominus demonstrated Devil's capacity for sustained assault on a hardened position. Fort Dominus was a military installation designed specifically to study and defend against Devil attacks, equipped with the most advanced defensive systems available to the Imperial Guard on Catachan. When a massive nesting group, estimated at over 15 adult devils and 200 devil spawn, decided to attack the fort, observers expected a brief assault, followed by devil withdrawal in the face of heavy fortifications. Instead, the devils conducted a systematic siege, probing defenses, learning the patterns of patrols and sensor coverage, and exploiting every weakness. They attacked repeatedly over 3 days, never giving the defenders time to rest or lower their guard. They used devil spawn as expendable scouts, sending them against defenses to see how humans would respond. They adapted tactics based on what they learned, avoiding areas where defensive fire was most effective and concentrating on weaker sections. By the third day, ammunition was running low, casualties were mounting, and the fort's commander was preparing to order evacuation. The devils withdrew before this became necessary, apparently satisfied that they had driven humans from their territory, or perhaps simply moving on to easier prey. The siege proved that devils possess not just the physical capabilities to threaten human positions, but also the patience and tactical awareness to conduct extended campaigns. The Fiddler of the Volcanic Badlands became legendary not for what it did, but for what it represented. This ancient devil, estimated at 70 years old or more based on observed size, held territory in one of Catachan's most inhospitable regions, near active volcanic vents, where even Catachan's hardy vegetation struggled to grow. The Fiddler adapted to this environment, apparently feeding primarily on the shambling mamorphs that could survive the extreme heat. Multiple hunting parties attempted to kill this devil over the course of decades, drawn by the prestige such a kill would bring. All failed, many fatally. The Fiddler demonstrated hunting behaviors never documented in other devils, including use of volcanic steam to mask its approach and apparent understanding of how to use lava flows to cut off escape routes. It became a rite of passage of sorts, with experienced hunters making pilgrimages to the volcanic Badlands to attempt what none before them had accomplished. The Fiddler was never killed. It simply vanished one day, with no body found and no evidence of what happened to it. Some speculate it died of old age in some hidden cavern. Others insist it's still out there, too clever to be found when it doesn't want to be. The legend serves to remind Catachans that some devils are simply beyond human ability to overcome, and that acceptance of this fact is not weakness, but wisdom. The hive ship infestation. Rumors represent perhaps the most disturbing category of devil encounters, though their veracity remains unconfirmed. Over the years, multiple Imperial Navy vessels have reported devil sightings aboard ship, usually in cargo holds or maintenance sections far from normal crew areas. These reports are officially dismissed as impossible, as devils should not be able to survive in void conditions, and certainly couldn't hide undetected on vessels with thousands of crew members and extensive sensor coverage. However, the reports persist, and they share consistent details. Crew members vanishing during maintenance shifts, strange sounds from areas that should be empty, and occasional glimpses of something large and segmented moving through shadowed corridors. If true, these sightings suggest that some devils have achieved a level of adaptability that borders on the supernatural, learning not just to survive, but to hunt in environments completely alien to their natural habitat. The Navy refuses to acknowledge these incidents officially, but informal protocols have emerged among experienced crew members. Always work in pairs in isolated sections, always carry combat knives even off-duty, and always report strange sounds or missing crew immediately, rather than waiting to investigate personally. These accounts, and hundreds more like them documented in Imperial archives or passed down through Catachan oral tradition, paint a picture of creatures that are far more than simple animals. Devils are adaptive, intelligent, and ruthlessly effective. Killers that have earned their fearsome reputation through demonstrated lethality across countless encounters. Each story adds to the collective understanding of devil behavior and capabilities, building a body of knowledge that is, quite literally, written in blood and purchased with lives. The eternal hunt. Conclusion. The life of a Catachan devil is, in many ways, the perfect expression of the Warhammer 40,000 universe's grim darkness. These creatures exist in a state of perpetual violence, born into a world that tries to kill them from their first moments, forced to fight for every meal and every breath against an ecosystem designed to reward only the strongest and most ruthless. They know no peace, no safety, no respite from the endless struggle for survival. They live to hunt and kill, developing ever more sophisticated methods of predation in response to increasingly challenging prey. And when they finally fall, whether to age, injury, disease, starvation, or violence, they are simply consumed by the jungle that spawned them, their biomass recycled into new life that will face the same brutal existence. Yet despite, or perhaps because of this grim existence, devils have achieved something remarkable. They have become perfectly adapted to their environment, apex predators that have held their position at the top of Catachan's food chain for what may be millions of years. They have developed physical capabilities that rival Imperial war machines. They have demonstrated intelligence and tactical awareness that challenges assumptions about what non-sapient creatures can achieve. They have spread beyond their homeworld to establish populations across multiple planets, proving their adaptability extends beyond even Catachan's extreme conditions. And they have earned a reputation that extends throughout the Imperium, becoming legendary even among people who have never seen one and never will. The relationship between devils and humanity serves as a microcosm of humanity's broader struggle for survival in the 41st millennium. Like the Imperium facing endless Xenos threats, Catachans must contend with devils that are stronger, faster, better armed, and perfectly adapted to their environment. Like the Imperial Guard, facing impossible odds on 1,000 battlefields, Catachan jungle fighters must find ways to overcome enemies that seem unbeatable through raw physical comparison. And like humanity as a whole, Catachans survive not through superior strength or natural advantages, but through intelligence, determination, and the willingness to pay any price for victory. The devils teach harsh lessons that apply far beyond Catachan. They demonstrate that size and strength are not everything, that intelligence and adaptability can be just as important. They show that perfect adaptation to one environment can become a weakness when circumstances change, as escape devils struggling in non-native ecosystems have proven. They illustrate that social cooperation can magnify individual capabilities, with devil nesting groups achieving things no single devil could accomplish alone. And they remind us that evolution, whether natural or engineered, produces results that can exceed the expectations and control of those who might seek to direct it. For those who face devils in combat, whether Catachan natives defending their homes or Imperial Guard forces deployed to worlds where devils have been introduced, the creatures represent an almost pure distillation of lethality. They attack with single-minded determination, exploit every weakness, and show no mercy or hesitation. They cannot be reasoned with, bribed, or frightened into retreat. They must be fought with maximum force and constant vigilance, and even then, victory is never guaranteed. This makes them perfect antagonists in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, embodying the hostile nature of a galaxy where threats can come from anywhere and survival requires eternal vigilance combined with overwhelming violence. The fact that Catachans have not just survived but thrived in devil territory speaks to extraordinary human resilience and adaptability. The people of Catachan have been forged by their environment into some of the toughest, most dangerous humans in the entire Imperium. They have learned from devils while fighting them, adopting the creature's tactical awareness and ruthless efficiency, while maintaining human intelligence and creativity. They have turned the threat of devils into a source of cultural identity and military excellence, transforming what could have been pure terror into a source of pride and strength. This transformation, from victims to victors, from prey to predators, represents humanity's capacity to overcome even the most hostile circumstances through sheer determination and adaptability. Looking forward, the future of devils seems assured in the near term. They have successfully colonized multiple worlds beyond Catachan, ensuring the species will survive, even if something catastrophic were to happen to their homeworld. They continue to reproduce successfully wherever conditions permit, maintaining population numbers that guarantee their ecological dominance. They show no signs of evolutionary stagnation or declining fitness, suggesting they remain as well adapted to their niche as they've ever been. And the continued failure of Imperial efforts to control or eliminate them demonstrates that human technology and organization, formidable as they are, remain insufficient to overcome millions of years of evolutionary refinement. However, long-term prospects are more uncertain. If the tyrannid connection theory proves true, what happens when the hive mind eventually returns to Catachan? Would devils be reclaimed by the swarm, reverting to controlled bioforms? Would they resist, having spent too long as independent creatures to accept hive mind control? Or would they be simply consumed, their biomass recycled into new tyrannid organisms with no special consideration for their unusual origins? These questions remain unanswered, but they add an additional layer of threat to creatures that are already among the most dangerous in the galaxy. Similarly, if humanity ever decided to dedicate serious resources to devil extermination, what would be the outcome? Could overwhelming military force purge devils from Catachan and other infected worlds? Or would the creatures' adaptability and the difficulty of hunting them in their native terrain make such efforts futile? And even if successful, would the ecological disruption caused by removing apex predators from their ecosystems create worse problems than the devils themselves pose? These questions remain largely theoretical, as the Imperium has more pressing threats to address than wildlife management on death worlds. But they speak to the complex relationship between humanity and these perfect killing machines. What is certain is that devils will continue to feature prominently in Imperial consciousness and culture. As long as Catachan jungle fighters serve in the Imperial Guard, they will carry the devil name and iconography with them, spreading awareness of these creatures across the galaxy. As long as people hear stories of Catachan, they will hear stories of devils. And as long as the Imperium faces threats that require examples of ultimate predatory efficiency, devils will serve as the standard against which all other killers are measured. The devil's existence also serves a philosophical function within the wider narrative of Warhammer 40,000. In a universe where everything is war, where there is only endless conflict and the laughter of thirsting gods, devils represent a different kind of horror. They are not evil in any moral sense. They don't serve Chaos or Xenos empires. They have no ideology or agenda beyond survival and reproduction. They simply exist, perfectly adapted to their purpose: killing, because that's what evolution designed them to do. In some ways, this makes them more terrifying than intentionally malevolent threats, because they demonstrate that the universe produces dangers purely through natural processes, without any need for malign intelligence or cosmic conspiracy. For Catachan specifically, devils will remain central to their identity and culture. Each generation will continue to test itself against these creatures, earning their place in Catachan society through survival and sometimes through victory. The knives will continue to be forged, the tattoos will continue to be earned, the stories will continue to be told. And through all of this, devils will continue to hunt, to breed, to defend their territories, utterly indifferent to human concerns and completely focused on the eternal struggle that defines their existence. The Catachan devil reminds us that in the grim darkness of the far future, danger comes in many forms. Not all threats arrive in warships or emerge from the warp. Sometimes, the deadliest enemies are simply products of evolution, creatures that have spent millions of years becoming perfect at what they do. And what devils do is kill, with an efficiency and effectiveness that makes them legendary across an Imperium filled with horrors. In the end, perhaps what makes devils so compelling is their purity of purpose. They are not conflicted or complicated. They do not question or philosophize. They hunt, they kill, they reproduce, they die. This simplicity, combined with their extreme lethality, makes them the perfect embodiment of Catachan itself, a world stripped of all pretense and complexity, where survival is the only goal and violence is the only language that matters. To understand devils is to understand Catachan, and to understand Catachan is to glimpse the fundamental harshness that underlies the entire Warhammer 40,000 universe. The grim life of a Catachan devil, then, is ultimately a reflection of life itself in this dark future. Brutal, violent, unrelenting, and entirely without mercy. It is existence reduced to its most basic elements: kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, survive or die. And in that reduction, we see perhaps the truest face of the 41st millennium, stripped of all the ideology and ceremony, and revealed as what it always was: a stage for endless struggle where only the strongest, fastest, and most ruthless survive to face another day. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Warhammer 40,000's most terrifying creatures, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Stories of Hammer for more detailed explorations of the dark universe of the 41st millennium. Drop a comment below and let me know what other creatures, characters, or factions you'd like to see covered in future videos. And as always, thank you for watching, and remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, even the monsters have stories worth telling. The Emperor protects, but on Catachan, you'd better protect yourself.